Hello everybody, I just wanted to come to you and show you all how to make some altered book journal covers. I'm going to use the project that we did last week. I'm having to do a voiceover because this part of the video, I don't know why, but it did not record, and I'm doing a voiceover for the rest of it anyway, so that's fine. But I'm just showing you here that I'm going to be putting these napkins. I'm going to use them for decoupage. I just thought they would go cute with our Otis project that we did last week for the book covers, the journal book, altered book covers. I'm going to maybe use this paper. Well, I do use it. Just so you know, I end up using on one of them. I end up making a pocket on the front cover, and I go ahead and line it with some paper so that when you put something in the pocket, it won't stick onto the different layers of cardstock that has on it. These are the books that I chose to use. The reason I chose them is because of the colors that they are on the outside, and also because they are the right size for the Otis project that we did. Anyways, so I'm going to be using these napkins. I got these napkins at Hobby Lobby. They are directional, is what I'm showing you here. So I do end up cutting them in half so that I can turn the direction around on one side. One thing I did do on the front of the cover, which doesn't matter much because when I cover it with Otis, you don't really see it. But I cut it with scissors, the napkin, and I probably should have used water instead to get more of a jagged edge so that it wasn't so obvious that line is there. But anyways, so you'll see it later on. These are some stencils that I just picked out thinking I might use them later. I did go over the numbers with you, but I'm going to have to just post those down below in the link. These are my fall stencils. They're all Tim Holtz ones. You can probably find them on Amazon or scrapbook.com or Ranger. I'm sure you'll be able to find them somewhere, hopefully, if you really want them. I ended up not using them on the covers, but you never know what I might come back and do at a later time, because I do that a lot. Think I'm done and then I add something more. So I'm just kind of going over my process with you and what I'm thinking I want to do. So there will be 2 journals because I'm going to use both Otis's. These are some photo albums that have like the real thick homemade type papers in them. One's from Italy, that one on the right. The other one, I'm not sure where it's from, but I just love the texture of the papers in these, and I want to use them perhaps for art journals or collage journals or something like that. I'm not sure, but I wanted your guys' opinion of what you think I maybe should use them for. This one I'm leaning towards using as an art journal because those pages are so thick. They would just be really good to write on and color on and all that. So that might be what I use that one for. And this one has that really cute little wooden pencil closure. But this one's all homemade paper in it, and I just love the texture of it. So if you have any ideas, I would love to hear them, because I don't want to use them as junk journals because they're a lot wider than a junk journal. I mean, I could, but I just thought it would maybe have a different purpose. Okay, so now we are going to start our collage. I'm first taking the different layers off of the napkins. These are 3-ply napkins, and as you saw, I used a piece of tape to make it easier to pull that layer off, that second layer, because sometimes they come off easily and other times you just can't get them off unless you use a piece of tape or something to separate the layers. And I find that using a little piece of Scotch tape just makes it a lot easier. I wouldn't throw those layers away though, because you can stamp on them and use them for collaging later. So, I mean, unless you have too many or something, then, you know, you could use them for, I don't know. There's a lot of different uses for napkins, so I would just suggest you use them before throwing them away. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and get collaging. I'm using Mod Podge, and I'm just covering the base layer of this book with Mod Podge first. And I'm being generous with the amount of glue that I use. I started with this one by covering the entire front, but you'll see later that I did it a little bit different for the back, just because since I'm cutting it, you see I'm cutting it in half, so all these pumpkins will be in the same direction. I probably should not have glued the top part yet, because I don't want that glue drying while I'm doing the bottom part. So it didn't dry, but it, you know, I just think it's better to wait and glue that later. But see how you can see there's a line there, and it's because I cut it with scissors instead of using like a water pen to just kind of tear it with, you know, outline it with a water pen and then tear it. That makes it so you can't see the transition so much when it has more of a jagged edge, and I had not really thought about it until after I did it. But on the back of the books, and you'll see that I did it differently. I did it the way I'm saying I should have done it. But on the front, it doesn't really matter, because once Otis, our autumn scene of Otis is on there, it's covered up anyways, and you can't even tell. So as long as the back part that's going to be showing, you can't tell, then we're good, right? So now I'm doing what I said I should have done, is just do half of the book first. And I still used the straight edge on this one too, because it wasn't until they were dry that I was like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But here I'm just covering the whole top of it with Mod Podge as well. You have to be real gentle when you're doing the top layer so that you don't rip that napkin. I did have a few spots that kind of bubbled up and ripped a little bit, so I just repaired those by pulling off a tiny piece of napkin and gluing it down, and you can't even tell. You can't see it once it's done. So that is a little tip on what you can do if you get a little tear or a bubble. You can always take a tiny piece of the napkin that you have left over and glue that on top of that tear, and you cannot usually tell. I'm going to come up and clean up these edges later on, but first I'm letting them dry. So now they're dry on that side, and we're turning them over and doing the back side. There you go. And see, this one I did the jagged edge, and so it looks a lot better in the end. Like it just transitions well, and you can't tell that there's two parts to the napkin. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your decoupaging, that it's better to have a jagged edge on there than a straight edge, unless you're going to cover the entire edge up, and then it doesn't really matter, I guess. Oh, see, I just put some tiny pieces on where there was a little tear and glued them down, and when it's all dry you can't even see them at all. I'm not decoupaging the spines because I'm going to be covering those up later with some ribbon and lace. So you'll see me do that in a while. I'm just taking that water pen again. I squeeze out a little bit too much water at first. But now I'm just ripping that off of there, and I'm going to put that on the bottom. So this whole process probably took me about 20 minutes for each side, plus drying time, just so you guys know. It's pretty simple. I just didn't want to make you guys watch the entire thing in slow motion. If I did all of my videos in real time, they would be an hour or longer every video, because I'm not fast. I usually take my time and think and ponder and keep coming up with different ideas, and it just all takes time. So that's why I choose to speed up most of my videos. Now I'm just doing the other book, and you'll see later on the different colors of the books. One book is black background, and this one is kind of an ochre type color. So you're going to get a different effect with each color of book that you have, how the final result looks, because those napkins will be a little bit see-through. So the final result, so just keep that in mind when you're picking a book that you want to decoupage, that whatever color is on the base is going to affect the way your book looks in the end, the way your decoupage looks. And I like the way both of these turned out. One looks brighter than the other. One looks more kind of moody. So here's the end. So there's the black one on the right and the other one on the left. The one on the left looks much brighter. I'm just showing you now that I'm taking a little piece of sandpaper and I'm sandpapering off all those edges, lightly sandpapering off the edges to make a clean edge. So depending on your mood and what you want, if you want something, I think the darker color kind of looks more almost like vintage kind of feeling, and the brighter color looks more like, I don't know, just reminds me of a crisp fall day. So it's whatever you like, whatever your mood is. If you want more of a crisp fall day, I would suggest getting a lighter colored book, maybe yellow or bright, or like a light blue, maybe like a baby blue underneath, or that would probably make the green stand out a little more. I got these books at a thrift store, and they were doing as many books as you can fit in a bag. So that's when I got these books. So you could buy as many books as you can fit in a bag for $3, which was a really awesome deal. So I thought, oh, this is the perfect time to find some books for my next project. If you have a hard time tearing up books, then this project's probably not for you. I had a really hard time when I first started doing it. But you know, these books, they're on their way out anyways. And plus they're mass produced. It's not like I'm destroying every book out there. So I know that there's more copies of these books. Another place you can get books is at the dollar store, Dollar Tree. They usually have books that you can choose from. I don't know what's inside of them. I try to find books personally that have a good vibe to them, because I don't know. I feel like every energy that's in that book is going to be in your journal or it's going to contribute to the final product of your journal. That's just me. That's how I feel about it. So when I'm choosing books for my journals, I try to consider what kind of vibe that book has. And if it has a bad vibe or too political or anything, I won't buy it. I'll be like, I don't think so. But that's just me. You don't have to worry about that if you don't want to. That's just my take on it. So after I do all the sanding, we're going to cover the inside with some paper that I chose from a paper pad that I just got at Michael's, and it's an autumn one that I got last year. Well, it took me a little bit to get all the little pieces off, because some of them I probably glued down a little bit too much to the edge. So I had to put some elbow grease into that sanding a little bit on some parts. Well, actually, I think before we cover the inside, we're going to be covering the spines. So I'm just showing you how it looks now that it's been sanded and dried. Just taking off all those little tiny pieces that I missed. And I think it's really cute. I just think it has a really cute fall vibe to it. Okay, now I'm back and I'm going to put this trimming on the spines of both of the journals. So I'm just cutting them to length for each journal, and then I'm going to use my 3-in-1 glue to attach them to the spines. I'm not positive where I got this trim, but I think I may have either gotten it at Michael's or the Dollar Tree. The Dollar Tree surprisingly has some really good items once in a while, so I wouldn't discredit going there, because you're going to get a good deal on some things there sometimes. Sometimes I look at some of their stuff and I'm like, I don't want that. But other things, you can just, if you have an imagination and you can really see what the potential is, then, get it, because it's only $1. Well, I guess now it's like $1.20 or something like that. My cat's crying in the background. Sodi, what's wrong? What's going on? He gets bored and then he starts crying because he doesn't know what to do with himself. All the other cats are sleeping right now. So I'm just taking that card and I'm pushing down the edges real well, making sure the glue is adhering. It's a pretty simple process. Just glue those down. I'm using the card because otherwise I get a lot of glue all over my fingers, and I don't like that, especially with this 3-in-1, because it's strong glue and sometimes it can be a little difficult to get off your fingers. Okay, so that part is done. Oh, I gotta do the other side of this one. I am going to be, I'm just showing you how they look when they're done. And now we are going to get the rest of the journal ready before we put the fronts on them, so that I'm one that I tend to get ahead of myself a lot and I just want to finish the front, but if you don't do this part first before you do the front, then things don't layer right. So I'm covering the inside of the journal with this paper that I got out of a fall journal, and you can't really see it very well, I don't think, but all of those words on the paper say like happy fall, autumn days, different stuff like that. So it's all autumn phrases and fall phrases that I'm covering the inside of this journal with. And I love this color of gray. I thought it went well with the outside of the journal. Later on I will probably put some pockets and stuff inside of there, but right now I'm just getting the base down before I go any further, because I haven't really decided what I want to do on the inside of the journal yet. But I thought these papers, I chose them partly because, well, I just think they're cute and they're fallish, but also they're very neutral colors, so I can add later on whatever I want to add to decorate. But at least I have the base down. Now I'm doing the other side of the journal. I'm just using a glue stick and then some of my art glitter glue on the edges, because when you use a glue stick to glue it down, it doesn't get all bubbled. And I don't like it when the paper gets bubbled when I'm using it for this type of thing. So the glue stick works the best, in my opinion, as long as you use some art glitter glue or some kind of stronger glue around the edges to make sure it's secured on there really well. And I do cover the entire thing really well with glue sticks. And there I'm going around the edges with the art glitter glue. So how many of you are excited for fall? What is your favorite season? One of my favorite seasons is fall. I don't know if I told you guys that in the last video, but I really love fall. I think it's one of the prettiest seasons, although we live here in Arizona where we don't get any type of fall until later in the year. Kind of, it's more like our winter. And we have a lot of trees that don't ever turn color, so unless you go like up to Sedona or other places in Arizona or up in the mountains, then you get some more fall weather. Okay, so I didn't want to make you watch me do both covers, but now we are back and both are covered inside, and we're going to put these corners on the book. I just chose corners for each book that I thought went well with the book. And I'm using my Distress Collage from Ranger inside of those corners just to make sure that they do not pop off at any time. And then I'm using my flat-nosed pliers to just squeeze them on real good and tight. So it's always good to do your corners and your inside a little bit, and like your cover, and then your closure all before you put the final touch on the front, because you don't want to put the front thing on and then realize, oh, now I can't do this or now I can't do that. So, or the corners. Like I've many times put my corners on and then realized, oh, I should have put my collage paper in the inside first or whatever. So that's why I'm doing it in the order that I did it in, so that I'm not having to go, uh-oh, I should have done this first. Normally, before I start the cover, I prepare the inside of the book, which I have not done yet. I will do that with you guys hopefully in the next video. But on how to do an altered book. So we're going to be ripping out pages out of the book, but not all the pages, so don't get ahead of yourself. Unless you want to do your own papers inside, then you would cut out the spine and not do the way I'm doing it. These are the ribbon that I'm going to use for each book, so to be a closure for them, I'm going to just punch some holes out. I'm just marking where I want them, and then I'm going to use eyelets in those holes that I punch out, and then we're going to use the ribbon in those. I forgot the name of this tool. If anybody knows it, put it in the comments below. I think it's called a crocodile. It comes in handy for book journal making because you can punch out holes, you can add eyelets, all that kind of fun stuff with this tool. So now I'm just adding more holes to this journal now for my eyelets. Those holes always seem a little tight for my eyelets, so I take my flat nose pliers and I just kind of stretch them out a little bit and then put the eyelets in, which was a lot easier to get in after that. But you don't want to stretch them too much because you want it to be a tight fit in there, because you don't want your eyelets popping out. Alright, so that's done. Popping in some more eyelets. I did choose some orange eyelets that match those pumpkins. Alright, so that part's done, and now I'm going to add the ribbon. So I'm just putting it through those eyelet holes and then wrapping a little knot at the end to hold in the ribbon. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but I just wanted to do it this way. You could also, double it up around the spine if you wanted to. Then I'm just tying a bow. I try to make my ribbons long enough that if the book gets bulky later on, you still have enough ribbon to tie it. Tie it shut. I love the way these ribbons look. They just add to the fall look of the journals because I love the color of them. These did have some wires in the ribbons, and I just pulled the wires out because I didn't want the wires in there. They come out really easy. You just see the exposed wire and pull on it. Now I'm gonna add the toppers, the final touch. First I'm gonna cover the one that I'm gonna make into a pocket, and I'm using my glue stick and my art glitter glue. This is some coffee dyed paper that I made a while ago. And I've also used it while I'm using my distress inks on other things, so it has distress ink on it as well. But you're not going to see it, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just cutting the edges off, making sure it's stuck down well. And then this is the journal that I'm going to put it on. I do end up cutting a little hole with my hole punch. Not a hole, but a little indentation with my round 2-inch hole punch. There you go. Now it's there. And then I ink around it to make sure none of that white paper behind is sticking out or showing, so that when you're looking at it you don't see that edge. And I'm using black soot to ink this, black soot distress. Now I'm going to use my 3-in-1 to glue it down, and I'm only gluing the edges, the 3 edges, so that it can be a pocket. It took a minute for the 3-in-1 to adhere really well on all the edges. I think it's partly because there's so many layers on this piece, you know, so it's a little heavier than some things that I would use. I'm just showing you it's a pocket, and I think that turned out really cute. What do you think? Now we're going to cover this one. On this one I decided not to make it a pocket, so I used my Distress Collage Medium from Ranger to adhere it down. And you can use it generously when you have this much paper. And then I just held it down for a few minutes to make sure it adhered well on the journal. You can always go back if there's a corner or something sticking up and add some more distress collage, which I did. I don't know if I did it on camera, but I did add a little bit to, I think, that upper left-hand corner. Oh, there we go, down there too. I find that this Distress Collage Medium, it just takes a minute to adhere. Like, it's not instant. That can be good or bad. If you don't want it to be instant and you want to be able to have, you know, room to move it around if you just change your mind, or, oh, that's not quite as straight as I wanted it. So it's kind of good that way. But if you want to hurry, then it can be hard. So, I decided to add these little stars that I had around the edges to just kind of, I just thought it looked cute and kind of tied in the background with the forward part a little bit more, to add those little stars. And once those stars are all adhered down, we are done for today. I don't want to say we're completely done with this cover, because I may go in and add a few more things later on. You never know. But I think they turned out really cute and fallish and festive looking. If you're a cat lover, I'm sure you'll love this as well. I don't know what I'm doing there. I think I'm gluing the top of that a little bit more. So I just saw a spot that I thought, oh, that might need to be glued down a little more. So there's the new journals. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Here's a little close-up of the journal, so you can see it a little more details. And I think they're both really, really cute. I love how they turned out, the covers, and I'm excited to do the insides of them and decorate them all up and do that with you guys. I hope you join me for the next part when I show you how to make the insides. Until then, I will see you guys all later. Bye.